Welcome back to the Titanium Hanger. Happy Friday, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Let's have a great weekend this weekend. We've got TFCon coming up. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff. But today I want to talk to you about something that it's a bit of a selfish topic. I will be honest. It's talking about vintage versus modern. And why I say it's selfish, it's because it's a topic I love discussing, I love talking about, and something that I missed because I'm a 30-year collector, and there's a feeling that newer collectors, like you only been collecting for 22 years, get to experience. I'm going to talk about that. I used to could think that the vintage collector and the modern collector collect for the same reason. Now, it's very simple to say, yes, there are some similarities between this. And yes, there are similarities. There are things that link modern collectors and vintage collectors that's missing. But at the same time, though, they collect for different reasons. Some people collect both and still collect both for different reasons. I'm one of those. Let's get into this vintage versus modern discussion. And at this point, it's not a debate. It's literally a discussion that we're going to have today, and I'm right. Coming up. There are many different factors that trigger memory, trigger nostalgia, remind you of a simpler time that's gone by. The melody, a song, any type of melody can bring back a memory, take you to another place in time, completely change your state of mind, put you in a better mood. Clint Black, this is lyrics from his song. I didn't even remember it's Clint Black. I just know those lyrics. And it's kind of funny too, because I remember hearing this song a lot back when it first came out. And nowadays when I hear it, I'm brought back to what I was doing, what I was thinking, teenage years where I was probably doing stuff I should have been doing. Anyway, but those memories come back when I hear this song. But the words themselves, it's not so much that it's the best song in the world. The words themselves are quite correct. Another factor that can stimulate your memory is food. Now, the people like to say taste and smell are synonymous. They are similar, but they are different. And I'm gonna separate that out here in a minute. But getting to eat your pancakes, this is a food I don't eat very often. So when I eat it, it does kind of bring back some memories to me. I mean, now if it's broccoli and chicken and steak or hamburger or some meat or something like that, it just reminds me of yesterday or the day before. But pancakes, it reminds me of Grandma's house. You know, another thing that kind of reminds me, if I were to eat a banana split, I've only had probably less than 10 in my whole life. This would take me back to one of those points in time for eating that. But the one thing that really would just bring me back to the 80s, because I probably haven't had it since the 80s, is cream of wheat. My grandma would make those for me. And it's the only place I've ever eaten it in my life, is my grandma's house. And it was Saturday morning. It was always Saturday morning. Now maybe sometimes Sunday morning. My mom worked the weekends. Of course, so did I, as I grew up. She put it on one of these trays it was very reminiscent to see these trays. It brings me back to my grandma's house. And here's the weird part. That as a kid, I didn't really notice. I'm like, yeah, my grandma's got these trays. She likes Pac-Man, I guess. No. She had all these different fun little trays because I liked it, or she thought I would like it. She thought it would be something fun that I'd like. Maybe I got it for Christmas, and like, I don't care, it's a TV tray. But she always had the ones that had the long legs. It seemed like they made them both versions. The long leg ones actually are worth a lot more than the shorter ones that are like to put on your lap in a breakfast in bed kind of situation. These are more for sitting in front of the TV on Saturday morning. And yes, I remember that. Now, as an adult, I appreciate it so much more. Now, understand, I'm not saying that you need to listen to some old 80s music from back in the day and then eat a bunch of crappy food that's not healthy for you so that you can get some sort of a coma of the 80s. That's not what I'm saying, but I am saying it will trigger that response. We're building on itself. The sense of smell is slightly different. I love the smell of coffee. I can't really stand the taste of coffee. I do not. I've tried all different ways. The only thing I choose not to try, well, I've tried it once, but Starbucks. I think Starbucks is kind of like a waste of money. Utter waste of money. By the way, a side note: if you drink a Starbucks $5 Starbucks every day, and you decide to brew it at home for 50 cents, like my wife does, then you can save yourself over $1,500 a year. Put them towards toys. And if Starbucks closed down tomorrow, I wouldn't even notice ever. So I'm talking about everything but toys. We are at least 4, if not 5 minutes into this video, and I first start talking about toys. The tactile feeling and experience of holding the original toy is something that really can't be replaced by any other experience in life. Bumblebee's not my favorite figure, but you remember the time when you first realized his head is just a flap? And you dealt with it, and you handled it, and that was your Bumblebee. And then the whole idea of Bumblebee and the whole figure and how it was, I mean, that was a thing. Now, I did get Bumblebee before Optimus Prime. Now, Optimus Prime's a whole different story. This figure, I had to have it when I got it. It's almost like an achievement in life as a kid. Now, when I got my first Optimus Prime in the 90s, and started manipulating it and messing with it, I remembered everything about it up to, and not limited to, the lack of articulation. I remember that as an adult, remembering it as a kid, remembering that the arms are pretty darn articulated, the head can go up pretty high, it can do some stuff, the knees bend, but the legs don't go forward. But I did remember its limitations. Now, we are seeing, this video is really not about Missing Link, so I'm really not going to talk about it much, but now Missing Link gives us that link to it. But the reason we collect it is because it does remind us of that simpler time. It takes us straight back there to all those memories, manipulating it. I really thought about, how many examples I want to use, and I'm just going to keep it to a few because it can really make for a long video. But like Sideswipe here. Now, as a kid, I didn't have this. So what a lot of collectors do, and almost every vintage collector does this, they buy all the stuff they had first. And that generally is not very much. Like, some kids only had 10 figures. Some had 20. Some had the whole line. Very few. But most kids had about, at maximum, 20 Transformers, 25 Transformers. And then, so once you get to that, you're like, well, let me collect the rest of it. Now, I want to point this out. I just did a random search on eBay. And I searched for vintage G1 Sideswipe. This is the very first listing they came up in newly listed. I'm just putting that out there. And I looked at it and I instantly remembered that I used this overdrive as my Sideswipe, and somebody listed it as Sideswipe. I can't make this stuff up. I live in a fantasy world, but I just can't make this stuff up. But it was kind of fun, and it just reminded me of my own childhood. And then there's Jazz. Of course, Jazz is a character that so many people absolutely love. And my appreciation for him has grown hearing everybody's story. The reason most people that say they love Jazz is because it was their first figure. It was the first action figure they got. They didn't have to get one of the cheapest ones. I think my first one was probably Bumblebee, the cheapest one you could get. A lot of people got a little bit nicer one for their first one, and that memory stuck with them. Now, as I talked about the manipulation of vintage Optimus Prime, also the transformation process. Most of us can remember the transformation of a G1 figure we had because they're usually pretty simple. And at the same time, we probably did it a few hundred times. I'm just saying, probably transformed them a few hundred times and probably tried to transform it as fast as we saw it on the show. That's what I did. But that does bring back memories. The action of transforming again, without even needing instructions, obviously, because we've done it so much, brings us back. Although I could relate this to every other toy line out there. Something a little bit different. It's like a different extra level with Transformers. The memory of transforming these vintage figures we had back in the day, it is a different level. We're on a different level of nostalgia and memory because of just basically the function and, yes, 2 figures in 1. And no, I didn't have this figure as a kid, so I have no nostalgia for it, but a lot of people did. A lot of people had the Sideswipe, and I have to say also, I love Lamborghinis. It's just kind of hard not to love Lamborghinis as an adult, and getting Sideswipe as an adult it's like a have-to-have figure, obviously, but again, the transformation brings you back. Like we do about this time, we're going to go back. Well, we're actually going to link these. When it comes to the G1 cartoon, that's something that brings nostalgia for both modern and vintage collectors. That is the giant link for all collectors. And it doesn't have to be the G1. It could be the Bayverse movies. It could be Cybertron Beast Wars. It could be any of those different eras that collectors, both vintage and modern, kind of come together to want to watch the media. It could be the comic books also. For me personally, it is the G1 cartoon. I mean, I'm honest on that about that. I do also love the Beast Wars show, and I also started gaining some appreciation for some of the most recent eras or more recent eras. But the reality is that both modern and vintage collectors do agree and do find joy, do find nostalgia in the media. It does sort of rhyme, like George Lucas says, it all rhymes. That it sort of gets back to things like the song, the intro to the G1 Transformers, or any of the intros to any of the eras brings back those memories also. So it's like doubling down, tripling down, and yeah, you could probably say it's marketing working at its finest. When you love the franchise, you love the property, you hear the intro, you hear the melody, you hear the song, you hear the sound effects, and like I spoke a few weeks ago, when you hear the soundtrack, it can really just put you in a good mood. Now I'm going to talk about modern collectors a bit, but I really want to touch on this point. The reason that it kind of eluded me to the whole tactile feel, the feeling and the holding and handling the actual vintage item, bringing back all the memories for vintage collectors, it eluded me because I've had a full collection of Star Wars since the late 90s. All the Transformers figures I really wanted I had by 05. It's been a long time since I've handled a figure that I haven't handled in 30 or 40 years and had that feeling, because I've had them. And G.I. Joe in 2024, late 2024, I collected the whole line. Some of the figures that I ended up getting, I have not had or handled or interacted with for 30 years or 40 years. And I started re-experiencing that all over again. I did it more of a challenge, can I do it? But I had so much more fun collecting this than I thought I would. It was also extremely painful financially. Now let's get into why Masterpiece collectors collect Masterpiece. It is more for the fact that Masterpiece collectors want what they did not get as a kid. As a kid, we wanted perfection walking off the screen. We wanted the best of the best of the best. We wanted it to look just like the show, and we're not stupid kids. We knew what we got in G1 didn't match the show. Very few figures matched the show, and the ones that did, like Perceptor, Optimus Prime was good. He was in the top tier. Soundwave, the rest didn't. By the way, Rambo is not going to have purple arms. Don't freak out. You're not going to get a purple armed Rambo. Well, unless you do. It's 50-50. I don't think it. I understand that the purple is the primer so that the white pops. That was the explanation given to me on why we're seeing some purple shining through. Or maybe it's early test shots that weren't fully painted. But at the same time, don't expect your Rambo to have purple arms, but it will not be bright white. It's more of an off-white. So, Masterpiece collectors collect the most definitive version. They want perfection, which in itself is kind of a pain. Yes, when you're collecting vintage and you get one and maybe it's worn a bit and you want to upgrade it, the good thing is they're screwed together. You can like swap parts and upgrade and build yours to be better. But when it comes to Masterpiece, you're going to end up getting like a good version, then there's a better version, and then there's the best version for that time, until later when there's an even better version. That is a problem, but Masterpiece collectors chase that. Is it a high? Is it really a high? No. They're just chasing that perfection over and over. I mean, I'll admit, not all characters are perfect. They don't have a perfect representation. They have the best that we have for now. One of the hot buttons is, why do we not see Fantastic Model putting out Bumblebee? I'm hearing, this is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that Fantastic Model and Fans Toys are different design groups. So the Fantastic Model group is not the same as Fans Toys, but I don't really know. The weird part, though, is the fact that Fans Toys official made Cliffjumper. Would they risk putting out the top tier character Bumblebee as Fans Toys? Would it convert over to Fantastic Model, or would they put it under a different name? There's a lot of questions being asked. I think that the main concern is, what's the best Optimus Prime? Right now it is hands down Magic Square. Even though it doesn't have little to no die cast in it, the paint is okay. It's the best design. The weird back thing that kind of protrudes is almost not noticeable in hand. But it's very noticeable in pictures, but in hand, not really noticeable. It's one of those weird things. But will it be dethroned by the, what's probably going to be kind of expensive Fans Toys one? Possibly. Quite possibly. Why am I not talking about MP44? MP44 is good in its own right. It's very cartoony. But at the same time, not fun to transform at all. It's got its hang-ups. At the end of the day, we're still kind of chasing the best of everything. Will Fans Toys be the best Optimus Prime? Probably. Possibly. One of the really big differentiations between G1 and Masterpiece collectors, the fact that G1 collectors, for the most part, are okay with transforming most of their figures because they're so simple. It's touchy. Some of these figures have gotten brittle over the years, have very breakable parts, and if you transform them, they break just because they're so extremely brittle over 40 years. They were never intended to last that long. Masterpiece transformations, on the other hand, don't have the 4 to 6 steps. They have 46 steps or 115 steps, and that's just not fun. It's not enjoyable. Understanding the transformation and the engineering that went into it, that's something I can appreciate. Most collectors appreciate. It's not what you want to spend your entire afternoon messing with. In all reality, it's not. So with that, most MP collectors will get them in the mode they want, which is usually bot mode, and keep it there forever. And yeah, some do transform them, but it's less than 30%. Lastly, I do think that most collectors will agree on one thing. Whether you're a Masterpiece or vintage, you do like the vintage style packaging. I think that if Masterpiece companies would embrace the Masterpiece style of packaging. I think that Masterpiece collectors would like that, but we know for a fact vintage collectors love the vintage style packaging, and in fact, like even Hasbro is kind of embracing all that kind of stuff with what's going on these days. But I'm curious, do you agree or disagree with my vintage G1 versus Masterpiece revelation, to say the least? Did you have a little bit of fun watching this video? Do you collect vintage stuff and a little bit of Masterpiece? Or are you the other way around? Are you more excited for Masterpiece? Which is me. I am the more excited for Masterpiece when it comes to Transformers. But many other lines, I'm more excited for the vintage for the reasons I just pointed out. And all I gotta say is, do not use me as an excuse to eat garbage this weekend. Let me know in the comments below. Let's have a wonderful weekend. Like and subscribe. Try to hear him hang around.